We have a fun one with Keith Foskey, Seth Gruber, and Michael Foster. Stick around.
Exploring theology, doctrine, and all of the fascinating subjects in between, broadcasting from an undisclosed location, Dead Men Walking starts
now.
Yeah, well, hello. Welcome back to another episode of Dead Men Walking Podcast. As always, you can find out more about us at dmwpodcast.com. Check out the merch site, tell a friend, share the YouTube videos and the audio. We appreciate it. That's how we grow. Well, just got back from the Dangerous Friends Conference. It was awesome. Had a great time. But before we get into that, got to tell you about Striving for Eternity Ministries. Andrew Rappaport. Absolutely love that brother. Sponsor the show. And also right now, still, What Do We Believe? We have the book. You get a hardcover copy or soft cover, free shipping. If you click in the link below right now, all DMW podcast listeners have a special link. You can get this book. I think it's on sale for like $15, no shipping, right to your door. Great book. Make sure you guys take a look at that. Of course, at the top of the show, too, you hear about Dominion Wealth Strategists. We love those guys, Josiah and Justin over there. Make sure you're handling your wealth and money properly, the Dominion way, the believer's way, the Christian's way. From baptism to burial, Dominion has you covered. Make sure you check them out. Click the link below as well. So got back from a local conference. That was nice. Didn't have to drive 7, 8, 12, 24 hours to Tennessee or Texas or South Dakota or all the other places that I've been. It was a half hour away in Monclova, Ohio, which is right outside of Toledo. And it was good. It was put on by Stephen Whitlow at Redemption Church. And they had all kinds of great speakers. And got to hang out with my buddies down there for a little bit. Parker Brown, shout out. Watch Well Podcast. Keith Foskey, shout out. You're a Calvinist. Corey Wing, shout out. Civically Minded. Who else? Brandon Wood, shout out. Eschatology Matters. TC Cook Show. Hey, what's up, brother? So we had like 4 or 5 podcasters there kind of covering the conference. I was one of them. And then, of course, I got to sit down with guys like Seth Gruber, Michael Foster, John Roman, Keith Foskey, obviously, Jamie Bambrick, Steve Dace, Brandon Wood jumped on. So some of these guys you've already known, they've been on. Some guys were new. And what I did is I went through and we got interviews over those 2 days. And then as we do with conferences, we kind of break them up into a couple-week package. And I think this is going to be probably 4 consecutive episodes, about an hour a piece. But we're not just talking about the conference, which is fun. We had people come on and we just did a live podcast right there. I say live, but I mean recorded it. And so you'll hear in the audio people talking in the background, mulling around, kind of like you do if you've been following the podcast for any amount of time. That's kind of what we do is we'll do it right when people are kind of getting out of session or milling around, and they'll watch this podcast as we record it with the guest. But this first episode is going to be kind of different because generally I will bring you something the speakers are speaking about if we're talking to one of the speakers. I did that with a few, but this one is Keith Foskey. And he's going to be talking for about a half hour about comedy and how comedy basically can cut through some serious topics and how he can use it as a pastor and as a believer. And we banter back and forth about comedy and comics and things like that. And I love talking to Keith about comedy because we're on the same page with that. We know all each other's bits. We know, I say, hey, have you heard of this comic? He knows it. He says, have you heard of that comic? I know it. So we have a shared passion for stand-up comedy in general. So he's going to talk a half hour there. And then we go into a little fun mode where we're going to have Michael Foster and Seth Gruber. Both had those guys on for just a fresh 10 segment. So those are about 15 minutes each. And it's where I go through and ask them the fresh 10 questions that you've become accustomed to if you've listened to this podcast for any amount of time. Changed it up a little bit, asked a few different ones, but we learn all about Michael Foster and Seth Gruber. It's 10 non-theological questions. It's stuff like, when you play Monopoly, what property are you going for? If you time travel, are you going in the past or in the future? It's just kind of fun questions to get to know them. And that's going to be Michael Foster and Seth Gruber, which, generally when you speak to both those guys, they're talking on what they talk about. Michael Foster is known as like the, it's good to be a man guy and patriarchy and male leadership. And then of course, Seth Gruber, very well known for fighting the social justice stuff, in the world of abortion and transgenderism and LGBTQ. So didn't talk to either one of those about that. We did a fresh 10 with them. So this episode will be at about an hour long. It's going to be Keith Foskey up first for about a half hour, and then 15 and 15 on the back end with Michael Foster and Seth Gruber. Maybe the flipped order. I don't know. Depends when I edit it down. But just wanted to check in with you guys. We had a great time. Thanks to Stephen Whitlow and the guys at Redemption and all the volunteers there for the great conference. I'm sure it's going to be even bigger and better next year. And we got a lot of great content for you guys. So make sure you stick around over the next few weeks, as we will have Steve Dace, Brandon Wood, Jamie Bambrack, Parker Brown, all those guys to come on, and we're going to be chopping it up while we were at the conference. Other than that, guys, weather's changing here in Michigan. It's getting a little warmer. I'm going to stack these episodes because I like to be outside with the kids, getting ready for camping, getting ready for spring and summer projects. I've got to build 4 raised garden beds in the next couple of weeks is the project that my wife has handed me. So I'll be doing that. So that's why I'm kind of stacking these. And we probably won't be back with like weekly guests after that until probably 3 or 4 weeks. But the content you're going to get from these interviews are pretty awesome. So stick around and make sure you're watching and sharing. Guys, next voices you'll hear will be me and Keith, and then it'll jump to me and Michael, and then me and Seth. So enjoy. Yeah, there's always a few. Well, heck, let's just talk about comedy then. We're at the I almost said Dangerous Minds again. Dangerous Friends Conference on Clove, Ohio, Redemption Church, put on by Pastor Stephen Whitlow. We got guys like, who we got? Steve Dace, Rosaria, Butterfield, Seth Gruber, Jamie Bambrack, all kinds of people speaking. But and Keith is here. We got some good podcasters here too. How do you feel you're not speaking at a conference? You get to kind of just watch and talk and hang out, right? Because you do a lot of conference speaking too.
That's a relatively new thing.
Is it?
Like you know.
Well, we've only known each other a few years. I feel like you were in that circle for at least a couple of years then.
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing conferences for a couple of years, but in my life, I've been in ministry for 20 years.
Right.
And nobody cared what I had to say until I put on the bow tie and made a joke, and everybody's like, "Hey, that guy knows what he's talking about."
He's funny. He should come talk about baptism.
Exactly. You know, my first actual well, maybe not my first, but like one of the ones that was most memorable early on. Yuri Brito, who is with the CREC, he calls me and he says, "Would you come and speak to our men about the value of comedy in the Christian life?" And I said, "Yes." And then in my mind, I'm going, I don't know how to talk about it.
I better think of something.
Exactly. So I spent the next couple months thinking about that question because I had been doing comedy.
Yeah.
But I hadn't thought of it. I knew why I was doing it. I knew the value of it, and I knew how important comedy is in my own life.
Sure.
But I hadn't articulated it.
Yeah.
And so I had to figure that out.
Yeah.
And it went really well. I mean, I spoke to 80 men at he had a men's dinner, and it was actually beer and psalm sing. And then I spoke, because it's CREC. They're going to drink beer, they're going to sing songs. And they're going to, yeah. But that went really well. So we got to talk about the value of comedy. And I think now that has become more of what I do. I've been on a lot of podcasts talking about that same thing. I was on Sam Waldron's ministry, invited me on their podcast to talk about joy in ministry. And I'm going to be at Michael Foster's Blue Collar Confessional. I'm speaking.
Oh, are you?
And he said he wanted me to talk about joy in the Christian life and comedy and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's huge.
It's kind of cool because, and I know you're not comfortable with compliments, but I'm going to pay you a couple of them, and I'm going to say it again. For those who are watching or listening and don't know Keith, I'm sure you all do, but one of the things I really like about you is, and it was an example earlier today when we went and had lunch. We had 6-7 guys at B-Dubs, and we went from a very intense baptism discussion into quoting.
Which I won.
The king never loses. The Amel king never loses
I allow people
in his
to
kingdom.
live in the kingdom, but I do not allow them to win.
But I'm saying we went from a deep theological conversation to quoting comics back to another and it was like to switch seamlessly between those. And I've found you don't find a lot of people that can be pretty good at both of those. They're either really good at comedy and their theology sucks, or they're really, really good theologians, scholars, Bible pastors, and their comedy's lacking. You're like, what? That you find that funny, or they don't understand a joke? You have a nice balance of both, and you're very good at both. And because you've done some stand-up comedy, obviously you're your videos popular and all that stuff. But that's what I really enjoy about you is I haven't found many people like me to where I can switch between those two subjects and someone talk competently about both of those.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No, absolutely.
No?
And
like I know real funny people, but I'm not going to sit down and talk to them about creeds and confessions.
Yeah. Yeah.
But with you, I can. You're funny, which I love that dichotomy because in the biblical world, you're not supposed to be that way, have those two things. In the comic world, you're not supposed to.
Yeah.
But we're starting to see that emerge a little bit. I'm starting to see a rise of Christian comedians. I say comedians that are Christians that are actually good at comedy. Because you can find some pretty hacky Christian comics, just like you can find hacky secular comics too, right? But I'm seeing a rise into becoming more popular where people are starting to turn back to, Nate Bargatze is a great example of him kind of blowing up over the last couple of years.
I've been happy to see him blow up.
Yeah.
Because I knew about him like before he became big.
Yeah.
I mean, back when he was big.
Yeah.
He lost a lot of weight.
See, I get that reference because I've been watching him since he had the shaggy hair and he was 50 pounds
heavier. He looks like a different person.
Yeah.
I want to find out who trained him. Like, I need to go on the Nate Bargatze diet.
And he's always talking about how much he loves McDonald's. I go, how can you do that, bro? That's my weak spot. How are you getting thinner and still eating McDonald's?
But he's clean. He's nice. And here's the thing that absolutely endears me to him. I was a magician when I was in high school. I think you know that.
Yep.
I was a professional magician.
I think his father was or something.
His dad was a magician.
Yeah.
And I want to have him on my show. I'm just throwing this out there, like into the ether.
Nate, if you're watching.
Nate, if you ever see this, I want to have him on just to talk about what it's like to be the child of a magician. I don't want to talk to him about comedy as much as I want to talk about what's it like to grow up. Because he talks about the time his dad came home. His dad had the Easter bunny with him, and the Easter bunny had to stick his head out the window because he couldn't fit it in the car.
Yeah.
He said, imagine seeing a magician and an Easter bunny driving down the road. He's like, that was just my life.
Beginning of a street joke. Yeah.
So I'd love to just talk to him about that. But other guys, you mentioned Jim Gaffigan, obviously clean.
Which his personal life is
and it's
off the rails.
And he is Roman Catholic, so, Christian.
Yeah, so I guess too I can appreciate
He's that kind of Christian.
My comic doesn't necessarily have to be a Bible believing Christian if they're working clean with smart, intelligent, and funny premises. I can watch a comic and appreciate a clean set without going, wait a minute. When was their profession of faith? I wouldn't call them a Christian comic. I would just say I still appreciate that, which I prefer.
Brian Regan.
There you go.
Josh Sneed, who we both appreciate.
Yeah, Seinfeld.
Maybe less people might know about Josh, but look him up. Josh Sneed, great dude, clean. Seinfeld was always pretty clean, but he had. Have you ever heard the Seinfeld not so clean stuff?
Yes, I have.
There's like Seinfeld has like this. Like very polished stage persona. That was his Broadway show. He did after the show, after the Seinfeld ended, he did. I'm telling you for the last time.
Yep.
Perfect act.
Great album.
Perfect. His Halloween thing, I think.
Trick or Snap. Ah.
Wait up. Yeah, that.
Right. Everything's down when you're little.
Right.
Calm down. Settle down. Keep it down.
When you're a kid, things are up.
You're growing
Wait up.
Hold
Shut
up.
Sit up. What? Mom, can I stay up? And he was so polished. But there's also like when he's trying out new stuff, and if you get recordings of that, like when he's in a club and it's not there, he's got an edge.
Which is funny because if you watch, I've watched it about 50 times. But I can't remember the name of the sit down. It's him, Louis C.K., Chris Rock, and there's a fourth comic, and it's not coming to my mind right now. The atheist from Britain that did The Office, Gervais.
Oh, Ricky Gervais.
And they're all. Have you ever seen that? That hour long.
I know what you're talking about, but I haven't seen the whole thing.
Funny people or laughing out loud or something like that. And he basically said he did a joke with a cuss word in it, and it got a laugh. And then the next night he did it without it, and it didn't get a laugh. And he goes, I didn't like that. He goes, the laugh was because I used a swear word.
Yeah.
And he said from a young age, he went, okay, there's something there. I don't want to get laughs on that, which that's when I say like intelligent or smart comedy is you can maneuver around that because look, we can talk to the psychologists and why do we laugh and things like that. Freud said it was everything that we fear or that we're nervous about. And generally speaking, the stuff that we're kind of don't want to talk about in public is the stuff we laugh at, right? Think of just about every bit you've ever heard. It's something uncomfortable.
Yes.
Even if it's as docile as I'm having an argument with my wife. Well, that's uncomfortable, so that's funny, right? He was just saying, or I was just saying, that's why I kind of like people who know how to navigate that and go, I don't have to go for a cheap laugh or an easy laugh, but it takes a little thinking. And when you hear that bit and you laugh, you go, wow, the way they got to that or the way they see the world, that's what I appreciate about it.
Yeah.
You know, you do that when we're cracking jokes and I go, I wish I would have thought of that. That's right.
It'd be so much easier just throwing a curse word.
it would, right? Yeah, absolutely. But I kind of respect it a little bit more.
Sure.
And I'm not trying to be an elitist, but it's like I don't even really go after that kind of comedy. If I'm watching it, I'm like, it's just too much.
But I do want to clarify, I'm not saying Seinfeld's out there throwing out bad words.
Right.
I was saying he has edgier stuff.
Sure.
His mainline stuff's very straight, very clean, very this.
Yeah.
But then he'll deal with edgy stuff, but he's still not. He's still not going to be a Dave Chappelle. He's still not. That's not him. Right. He's not that guy. So for sure.
Yeah. There's a lot of them out there. Like I said, we're seeing a rise. It's kind of weird. What do you feel about this? Like, I feel like the stand-up comic has become over the last 5 years since of like woke, they're like the new philosophers now.
Yes.
Like they're the new rock stars. Mm-hmm. Like what they say is like we're looking to them for cultural cues, which is weird because stand-up started as an alternative, subversive. You go do your thing in that bar over there. Heck, they would arrest you if you said something sideways in the 50s and 60s. Well, not 60s so much, but mostly 40s and 50s when stand-up started. But now it's totally switched, and I think it's kind of a pendulum swing of political correctness and woke ideology, and we went, oh, let's look to these guys as our like pioneers of the culture, which it's great that we have free speech and we can laugh, but I don't know if you necessarily want to look at stand-up comics as your like Lord and Savior of a culture. What do you think?
Well, I mentioned when we were at lunch, I mentioned about Jon Stewart.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people do not like Jon Stewart because of his political philosophies.
Yeah.
Obviously, I disagree with a lot of his stuff politically.
Sure.
But you cannot say that he does not have great comedic timing and the ability to take something very intelligent and make it funny.
Yeah.
And do
or mundane and boring sometimes, the subject matter.
And make it funny. And I think people are, there was a time when he was the most trusted newsman.
I know.
And he went away. Trevor Noah took over, which I think,
not a big fan.
I didn't think he was funny. Yeah. But, some people would say, well, he's just a different style of humor, whatever. Jon Stewart was what the younger generation thought that's what a newsman should be. He's delivering it to me in a way I can receive it and take it and ingest it. I'm not going to watch Dan Rather. I'm not going to watch Peter Jennings or whoever.
Which is a way to reach the masses.
Yeah.
If you can take something big and heady and important and get it into their brain through comedy or through, that's why we invented stories and had storytellers and tribes, right? Like, it's pretty crazy how influential he was over that 15-year run or whatever it was.
This is one of the things I talked about when I went to Uri's church. I said one of the things comedy can do that other mediums of communication can't do is they can dive into a subject. Comedy can dive into a subject, dissect it, and do so in a way that's straight out brutal.
Yeah.
And yet the people will still accept it because they're laughing.
Yeah.
Think about
that's a good point.
When a comic talks about transgenderism.
Sure. Yeah, touchy subject, yeah.
Which is a touchy subject for a lot of people to talk about. Comic says something about it, and he said, and he's protected by that wall of I'm making a joke, but he's making a joke that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And people say, this happened again with Chappelle.
Yeah.
Chappelle said something about transgenderism. People flipped out, but at the same time, what he said was actually accurate.
Yeah, and it wasn't
not all of it, but the points that he was making were clouded in comedy or hedged in comedy, I guess, protected by comedy. And I think that's part of what comedy allows. It allows us to address these subjects in a way that it hits people different.
Yeah.
If your principal in high school is telling you about these things, You tune that dude out.
Right over, yeah.
Yeah.
You know what's crazy is the pendulum has swung so far in the craziness that the comics are making jokes that are based in the created order principles. Yeah. Like Andrew Schultz has a joke about transgenderism, and he's saying all you women complaining about men being in women's sports, and he goes, honestly, I can hardly wait for the transgender men to beat you in every sport. And they kind of chuckle, and he goes, now you know how I feel when they start letting black people play in the NBA. It's about time you learn to do something, switch up your game, learn how to be an accountant like we had to do. And he's making a joke like, you know, you have a group of people that are really perform better in sports. And he's not agreeing with transgender, but he's making the premise of, yes, we all agree that there is a physical difference between a man and a woman. They shouldn't be in the sport, right? So he's like pushing back against the craziness of culture. He's not a Christian. He's not a believer, but he's using a biblical created order principle. And now we're laughing at that because we're so insane in this country right now with what is sex, what is gender, what is orientation. He's like, the funny thing is to bring us back to a godly principle of created order, man and woman. And you go, wow, how nuts is that? That's what we're finding funny and laughing. And the reason we're laughing is because maybe Freud was right. We're nervous about it going, yeah, how did we get into a place to where a man can call himself a woman and we can see with our eyes what is happening and they're outperforming and they're physically bigger and all these things, but we have to pretend, I say we, I'm saying maybe the general unbelieving public, the liberal public, that, it's whatever you think. There's no difference, right? Yeah. And tapping into that kind of pushback on subjective morality has now become a playing ground for comedians. Yeah. And I was just talking to someone about this earlier too. You're starting to see that swing back, and I think comedy helped with that too, both through comics who are Christians and not, but just at least getting back to a more sane, I say a more sane point, but even the unbeliever doesn't understand what they're doing is they're saying, hey, we need some type of objective morality here, man. It's gone too far.
Yeah.
You know, and we had a really good talk a couple years ago down in Tullahoma when we were staying in the house, and you were talking about like transcendent moral law, and like we were kind of like rolling that around. And I've been thinking about that for 2 years since you said that, how it affects, you know what I mean? How it affects everyone. Even the unbeliever, even the one who knows nothing of Christ, nothing of God, even a comic goes, but I understand that this thing is true.
That's right.
You know, and then they can base their comedy around it. So anyone who tries to separate, that's a long way of saying for me too, anyone who tries to separate like biblical principles, theology, doctrine, all these things, scholarship, and comedy, I'm like, dude, God created it all.
Yeah.
And it's so interwoven into who we are. I think Jesus was pretty funny when he would exaggerate and say, hey, why don't you take that plank out of your eye?
Yeah.
Like plank is or a board. I mean, he's exaggerating, right? Yes. He's using exaggerated language. And I'm not saying he's a stand-up. I'm saying he used things to make you go, oh, you got a board in your eye for for speck in your brother's eye. So like there's examples there too where comedy timing, comedy writing, being funny. Obviously, I think it's a common grace and gift from God. But like you said, very effective when talking about certain subjects where most people would just wall up. You come in with something funny and kind of break open that wall. Next thing you know, you could be talking about anything because now you've broken down the wall of, we're not supposed to talk about this. This is uncomfortable. I don't know if we agree or disagree.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
And it is there are times where you get nervous because you wonder where the line is.
Oh, always.
But the comic's job is to press against that line.
Yeah.
Whatever the line is. This is something I have to deal with my wife because she helps me. Well, she helps me write. She helps me write the scripts for our videos.
Okay.
So we write denominational videos once a month. We write a church soup video once a month. Both of those take 2 or 3 days to write.
Yeah.
Because we're trying to nail every joke. And like Seinfeld said, every word matters.
Yeah.
How you say a word, how you parse a verb, all these things is going to make it funny or not funny. And timing matters. So we spend time writing church soup. We spend time writing these things. And sometimes we will write a joke and we'll say, okay, is this too far? And we're asking it on a couple of levels.
Okay.
For us,
explain that.
Number one, and this is probably the primary one, does this violate who I am as a minister? Because I'm a pastor first.
Yeah.
I'm not a comic first. So is this like I had a really funny joke one time about Wayne Brady came out as pansexual.
Okay.
And I had the greatest joke.
Right.
And it came from I looked up the article on Yahoo about him becoming pansexual.
Wait, he is?
He is. He came out as pansexual.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Pansexual.
Okay, I thought that was part of your joke.
No. That was the truth. And so I'm reading the article, and I'm starting to read the comments on the article. You know, Yahoo lets people comment.
Yeah.
Halfway down it, people start arguing over stainless steel versus cast iron skillets. And I said,
on the Wayne Brady pansexual.
I said, these people have really misunderstood pansexual. And it was just like, it was such a funny joke. But then the second thing came up. Not only am I a pastor, but kids watch my stuff.
Sure.
And some of those people are kids. My kids watch my stuff.
Right.
Kids of people in my church, like, tell me. They come singing the song to my podcast, right? I think about them when I'm doing stuff.
Yeah.
So that matters to me, right?
Yeah.
I'm on your show right now. No kids watch your show. No,
No one watches my show.
no, you got a great show. You're what we all aspire to.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
But that's the two filters first, right? Does this violate my ministry?
Yeah.
Does this violate, would I not want my kids to repeat this joke?
Yeah.
So those are a couple of things.
Yeah, and those I'm guessing those are all parentheses inside of, being a believer, right? Being Christ reflecting in our actions and speech and
absolutely. I don't want to harm my witness, and I don't want to harm my children and what I'm saying. So those are the careful lines. Now, I have pushed that, and I push it to an edge. And sometimes my wife, who is smarter than me, will come and say, "Okay, we're going to let's talk about this." And I'm thankful to have her, not because I don't know enough, but sometimes I don't think about things that she would think about.
I think wives are good at that. They know how to take their husbands and they're not leading by any means, but it's a nice, loving suggestion of what do you think this might be in response to that. To where, because I think we feel the same way. If you've got a bit or you think of something funny, it's burrowing into your head until you can tell it to someone. Go, how can I not say this?
That's right.
Even if it's on the line, you're like, I got to at least get it out to a private brother so we can both laugh. And I go, okay, my brain shouldn't think that way, but that's funny, right? And I'm not talking about anything grotesque or anything. I'm seeing stuff that might be,
but this is why you and I text each other. I mean, straight
but
to
my
the
point,
world.
it's so hard not to, and then to be able to abandon it, right? Especially with so many struggling comics out there just trying to create material. Which when you, it's so funny you said the whole thing with Wayne Brady and pansexual. That's the first thing I thought of as I heard the word pan, and I, while you're talking, I'm going, well, it's just funny that people think that's a thing. But two, I prefer, a nonstick.
Yeah, see,
so
right.
it was like
it was that kind of joke.
Yeah,
and I was like, it wasn't that it was.
Not only that, but the jumping off point on that, you could have a good 5 minutes on.
There's a whole bit. There's a whole bit.
See,
I mean, and this is like, I tell you, a comic I love, and a lot of people probably, everybody knows him, but they might not think of him as stand-up, and that's Steve Harvey.
Yeah.
Steve Harvey, of course, it's Steve Harvey show. He's now Family Feud.
Yeah.
But have you ever seen his stand-up stuff?
Yeah, his old school stuff was awesome.
Very funny. And I remember he was on Comedians with Cars with Seinfeld. And they were talking about how comedians, when we hear about something tragic, I shouldn't even put myself in that category. I'm a humorist, whatever. But like real comedians, Seinfeld, Steve Harvey, guys like that. He said, we have the jokes written that night.
Yeah.
He said the tragedy happens and our minds, for some reason,
go right to it.
And he says, but we can't say it. He said, but they're there because our minds take everything and filter it through this funny thing.
Yeah. Do you use your wife as that filter so you can get it out? Because I've done that with my wife.
I have.
And I have to tell her privately and have a chuckle. And she's like, Greg, thank God you didn't say that. It's too soon. Everyone doesn't have the same sense of humor. And it's not necessarily mean or anything. It's just you take a heavy situation, you make light of it, you laugh. It's therapeutic for me.
I say comedy is therapy.
Yeah.
This has been and I base that on scripture. It says a merry heart does good like a medicine, but a broken spirit dries the bones. Right? So if a merry heart does good like a medicine, what is that saying? It's saying that when my spirit is broken, It's like taking all the moisture out of your body. It dries you out. But that ability to laugh, even in the face of adversity, is a gift. I actually did, when I did my thing at Yuri's church, I brought some statistics about how humor and comedy has been helpful in like treating cancer patients and things like that. Helping them stay positive and happy helps them to overcome this terrible thing they're going through.
Yeah.
And so I think there's great value in it. I think in that there's even more value than we even realize.
It's so funny how we and we'll finish this up here in a minute, but it's so funny how a lot of Christians kind of like pigeonhole comedy and go, well, there's some stuff in that is not good and not godly. You know, there's people out there doing it. So they just kind of throw the baby out with the bathwater. And you go, and I got to tell you, some of the funniest people I know are believers.
Yeah.
Some of the quickest thinking, wittiest, intelligent, sarcastic. You got Corey here with his British humor. You got you doing stand-up stuff. And you go, well, what a waste, because there's nothing more. I looked so forward when I knew you guys were going to be up here at Dangerous Friends. I went, I'm going to have 2 days of just a good time of laughing with my brothers, and it's going to be therapeutic. I'm going to go into this Monday and, you know, go close deals and do business and all the stuff I do, because I got to have that time with my brothers and having fun and kind of let loose. And it's so sad that we have so many Christians just kind of throwing it out. Maybe it's a hangover from the moral majority and all that stuff that went on in the 90s, and then they grow up and they're boomers, and the boomers are like, you can't be funny. But I'm optimistic, because the younger generation really seems, even the believing generation, seems to be investing in and accepting comedy as kind of a way to talk about things and a way to open, which is good. I think within the bounds of, Christ reflecting, comedy is powerful. It's therapeutic. It's everything you just said. But before we go out here, give us an update on the stand-up stuff. Have you done any other shows? Have you thought about it? Because you're a man of like a million things you're always doing. Have you had time to do that, or is that on the back burner, or is that something you're going to pursue this year?
I have a show coming up in April. There's a conference in Newton, North Carolina, where this is the second time a church has asked me to come and preach and do comedy, which I am just...
That church gets you.
I'm super happy. But this is actually, Claude Ramsey.
Sure. I love my brother Claude.
The Laborers podcast, but it's Truth and Love Network.
Yep.
It's their conference, and Robert Knipe, the guy who's the head of the group, he said, hey, we're going to do family night on the night starting the conference, and they're going to have an improv troupe there, and then I'm doing an hour of stand-up. So they're going to have...
You're doing a full hour?
Oh, yeah. And I did a full hour in Arkansas last year.
No, wait, you've got an hour?
It's not great. I'm working.
Well, I mean, it's always a work in progress.
It is, and I'm always trying to tighten it up.
Are you doing anything with is it all just you talking? Are you doing anything with PowerPoint or anything?
I've thought about a whiteboard thing. Like I have this really funny skit, a whiteboard skit that I do about men and their bathroom behavior. But I don't know how that.
That's
would go
already
well
good premise.
Church. Yeah. But like if there, I'll ask you this, because you're a man. If there are three urinals in a bathroom, and you walk in, which one are you obligated to take?
Are they all empty?
They're all empty.
I'm going all the way to
the one closest to the wall.
Yeah,
you're
close to the wall.
To
all the way. Yeah.
Okay. All right. If you come in and you're the second guy, which one are you obligated to take?
Skip one.
The one furthest away from that guy.
Yeah.
If you come in and you're the third guy, what are you obligated to do?
Walk back out.
Wait. That's right. You're obligated to wait. That's such a funny thing, but every guy knows what we're talking about. Nobody wants to be the guy.
I didn't know where you're going with that, but
you do that with a whiteboard and you draw 3 circles and you're like, what? And then if the big, and this is hard to do in church, but it is funny. You say, okay, you got 3 urinals. You have guy number 1 comes in and he's here.
Yeah.
Guy number 2 comes in and he stands next to him. Who is he? He's the gay guy.
Yeah, he's the reprobate.
That's right. So that I think a whiteboard would be funny.
Yeah.
But no, my comedy is typically storytelling.
Okay.
I really one of my favorite comics of the old days was a guy by the name of Jerry Clower.
Why does that sound familiar?
Jerry Clower,
how do I know him?
He was a comedian in the Grand Ole Opry.
Okay.
So we're talking country. He had a Louisiana accent.
Yeah.
And he would tell stories about growing up in the Louisiana Bayou.
Yeah.
And it was the funniest way that he would tell stories.
Sure.
And I've tried to him and Mike Warnke, who was also a Christian comedian, from the 80s. I used to listen to them over and over. And they weren't telling jokes. They were telling real stories from their life that just had hilarious premises.
Sure.
And I'm trying to tap into that with my own life. Like I tell the story of the bully I had in high school. Everybody called this guy Big Mix. Do you remember Big Mix cereal?
Big Mix, yeah.
It was a cereal where they had mixed different cereals together.
Yep.
And the mascot was a chicken, a moose, and a pig all mixed together. And that and like different. And we called this guy Big Mix because he was 6'5", 300 pounds. He was a linebacker on the football team, and he bullied me.
Okay.
And my dad, I go home, I said, Dad, Big Mix is bullying me. And my dad called me a bad name that I can't repeat on stage at a church. He goes, my son isn't going to be stand up for yourself. So I go to, now my dad's giving me like, you got to stand up for yourself. Right. So the next day, I walk into school, Big Mix is walking towards me, and he kind of, I jump on him. I push him against the wall. I put my arm in his throat, and I scream, Big Mix, you're not going to bully me. I'll kill you, Big Mix. I'm like losing my mind. I'm like Joe Pesci. And I'm like just going crazy, losing my mind. And I realize he's scared to death.
Right.
And I say, wait a minute. I'm the bully. I'm bullying Big Mix.
Yeah.
And it's just that moment of reality where I realize I'm the bad guy. He didn't do anything. I just attacked him because
he goes home. He goes, this guy's
crazy.
Bullied me today.
He got bullied by Medford. That's my first name. So it's stories like that I think I'm trying to hone a real punchline into.
Yeah.
There's something there that I think is funny.
Yeah. You say storytelling, it's like, I mean, now disgraced, but one of the best to ever do it, Bill Cosby. If you listen to his early stuff.
We've talked about this on your show before.
Yeah, Chicken Heart and Buck and, and he would just sit and tell a story for 40 minutes, and you're like, it's hilarious.
You laugh the whole time.
Yeah.
Natural childbirth. Natural childbirth is what you do. And drugs will be administered to the female body. The husband can have all he wants.
He says, and I looked up at my wife and I said, congratulations, we had a lizard.
Yeah. The thing changed color 6 times.
No, it's good stuff. Yeah, my brother used to go around and talking in that voice. I don't know if you remember the snake bit, but his parents would leave him home alone and said, we put a million invisible snakes around here and they'll bite you, So just out of nowhere, my brother would be doing Bill Cosby's voice at like 8 or 9 years old. We didn't have a whole lot of media in the house. What we did, we stole from Grandma.
Yeah.
Which I think I've told you. Did I tell you the Cheech and Chong story before?
No.
I'll do that, and then we'll finish up.
We've been doing this for 30 minutes.
Oh my, it just goes with us. So fundamentalist home, kind of. No media, like no rock and roll. Only hymns and psalms and things like that. And my grandma is Polish and love her to death, but she embodied the Polish stereotype, She would, when her dog was acting a little crazy, she would give him a Tylenol, which is a Valium, like just drugging her dog. But anyway, she said, oh, I found this comedy. I'm like 7, my brother's 7, I'm 9. Found this comedy tape you guys might want. I said, okay, so we take it and we put it in our tape player. Now, granted, we have no rock and roll, nothing. We put it in, it's the Cheech and Chong Christmas special. And it's all songs and me and my brother are 7 and 9, and we're sitting there memorizing, we're doing Christmas. Santa Claus, the one with the bony knees, walking down the street with no shoes on his feet, you know what I mean? A little magic dust for Santa, a little more for the reindeer, a little more for Santa, right? We don't even know what we're saying.
Yeah.
And we're saying it one day, and my dad goes, "What are you?" And we go, "Oh, it's on the comedy. It's just funny, guys." What is it? Rips it out. So it was funny where it was like you can kind of have that fundamentalist view of like to shut everything out, but we still got our hands on a Cheech and Chong Christmas album at 9 years old.
Yeah.
And it was funny voices. We didn't know what the jokes were, but just the voices of a Hispanic Santa Claus with bony knees is.
My dad let me watch Up in Smoke when I was a kid. I had no idea what marijuana was. I didn't know what was even happening.
Right.
So, yeah.
All right, man. We'll finish it up here. I know you got some interviews to do. Guys, we're at Dangerous Friends. We're mashing up all kinds of stuff with the speakers and the guests, and we got some other podcasters here. So I don't know who's coming up next. I don't even know if these will be in order. But remember, you can find out more at dmwpodcast.com. Keith, where can they find you at? Shout it out.
KeithFoskey.com. best place. You can find all my videos. You can find all the stuff that I do. Even now I have sermon notes posted. KeithFoskey.com.
Those sermon notes make my OCD so calm. Beautifully color-coded sermon notes. All right, guys.
It's like an NFL football coach.
All right, guys.
Plays.
Remember, chief end of man, glorify God, enjoy him forever. God bless. Hey, guys, we're still here at Dangerous Friends Conference Day 2, doing some mashups. We're going to do something a little different. Got a couple people coming on. We're going to do a Fresh 10 segment. Now, last time you were on the podcast, I think we were at Fight, Laugh, Feast. It was a few years ago. And we do like to have a little fun here, too, on the podcast as well. So we're not going to be talking about patriarchy. We're not going to be talking about theology. We're going to get to know Michael a little bit better. Michael Foster, how you doing, brother?
Doing well.
All right, you ready for Fresh 10? Got a little intro song. Here we go.
Yo, can we kick that one more time? Let's go. I'm fresh. I'm fresh.
All right, here we go. Fresh 10 with Michael Foster. He didn't know what he was getting himself into, but now you're on. It is what it is. Question number 1. What city and state did you grow up in, and how did that affect you?
I grew up in a bunch of different cities, and I grew up in 5 different states, went to 8 different schools. I
Okay.
moved every year from 4th grade to 9th grade. So,
Okay. How did that have an effect on you moving around like that? And why were you moving around like that?
we always say that Dad was looking for Mayberry, that perfect place. And so when you move around a lot, you kind of get a fresh start at each school, at least you think you do.
Right.
So you can become a bit of a chameleon and try to restart over and over again.
Yeah.
That's not good. I think the place I connected most with was Southern Indiana.
Yeah.
You know, that's where I'm mostly from.
Okay. Now you're a Buckeye.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm in
right
Michigan,
across the
so
river,
yeah.
Right across the river. It's a tri-state area. But yeah, no, I think it's part of the problem in America right now is that people don't have roots anywhere.
Yeah.
And I remember when we moved from Indiana to South Carolina in my marriage, and the sky is different down there because the weather pattern because of the Appalachians creates a different kind of flow.
Okay.
You grow up underneath Indiana skies, it's very simple west to east.
Yeah.
Very straight sort of storms move around. And there's just a way. There's a sound the corn makes. You know,
Right.
Not much of that down with the red clay in the state of South Carolina. So you kind of become detached, right? You're like a nomad. I think it's good to have roots somewhere. So yeah.
100%. Cool. Swing that mic up a little bit closer to your mouth there, just in case. All right. Do you have a favorite joke, go-to joke, opening line, favorite funny story you might tell among friends, something where it just works for you? You got a little one-liner, you get a little funny story, something like that. You got a go-to or no?
All I can think of is I like to go to the playgrounds to watch the kids run around and scream because they don't know that it's just blanks.
Right. All right. Question number 3. The flux capacitor is fluxing. We're in the DeLorean. We're going either back in time to visit our great-great-great-great-grandfather, or we're going forward in time to visit our great-great-great-great-grandchildren. Which one are you doing?
Great-grandchildren. Would like to see, I come from a heritage of hell. You know, I'm first-generation Christian. I'd like to see how it plays out, you know.
Okay, very post-mill of you. Yeah.
Well, dispensationalists have sex, and they have children and grandchildren, but I would just like to see them see how my kids do, how my grandkids do. I pray that they love God, you know.
That's awesome. All right, question number 4, moving right along. What's something people would be surprised to know about you? You tell them and they go, I wouldn't think that. What?
I'm not completely retarded.
Just borderline?
Just a little bit. I'm 2 parts idiot, 1 part savant.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
third of the time, I'll do really well.
Nice. All right, question 5. Top 3 bands that you're bringing with you. What 3 albums are you bringing with you on the deserted island? Do you have 3?
Oh, that can't be too hard. Beck, Sea Change. That'd be a good one.
Beck, okay.
Really like that's a great album. Let's see. Tuesday Afternoon, Moody Blues. That'd be really nice. I like that one.
Okay.
Women in Country by Jacob Dylan. That'd be a third one.
I don't know that one. Is it good? Should I check it out?
No, it's terrible. I want to bring it on the island because it's terrible. Yeah, it's good, dude. That's why it's like top 3 bands.
I shouldn't ask that. I walked into that. Question number 6. What properties are you going for in Monopoly? Are you a slumlord guy? You going for the dark purples? Do you like Boardwalk? Are you a ritzy guy or somewhere in between? Or you do not play Monopoly?
Man, I don't finish Monopoly. That's for certain. I'm the guy that starts, all right, let's all add it up and see who has the most stuff.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I'd always like the slum stuff for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah, easy to build.
Yeah, I think
get
that's
a payday
what it
quick.
is. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
so.
I guess they said
I used to love the trains.
that's a good one. There's 4 spots at the trains.
I used
Everywhere
to
else,
love
only
that a
3.
lot when I was a kid.
Yeah, I think they said they did a study on this. Probably Doge has wiped this out now, but they did a government study and they said the Reds best value for the money. All right, just so you know, I made the thing up about the study. What do people misunderstand about you the most? So it's kind of like the other question, but is there something where they go? Because I get, man, that guy's a real jerk, and then they get to know me and they go, he's not that big of a jerk. He just says things that other people shouldn't say, or he says it not a nice way. And I'm working on that. The Lord's sanctifying me. But is there something that people would be surprised or misunderstand you and go, no, that's not really me? Besides being a chauvinistic pig.
Man, I don't think about that too much. I've killed that part of me so long ago.
Perfect then.
You know?
That's an answer in and of itself. Like,
There
I don't
you
even
go.
think about it. That's healthy. All right, question 8. Just a couple more left. Cup of coffee with any historical figure outside of the Bible. Who you sitting down with? You get 1 hour. You get a couple squirrely Joes. Who you talking to? Outside of the Bible, not a biblical character. Maybe a theologian or something like that. Someone not mentioned in the Bible, because that's usually a go-to for most of us on the program. So outside of that.
Oh, boy, Watson would be up there for me. Churchton would be up there as well.
Okay.
I mean, it'd be pretty wild to meet like Aristotle or Cicero too.
Right.
That'd be. I don't know. There's so many.
That seems to be the number one is like philosophy guys too. Going back, we get that quite a lot.
Was this Aristotle? Was this trainer to Alexander the Great, right?
Yeah.
And so that idea of the philosopher and the emperor working together. One guy that wins by brute force, and the other guy that wins through the force of his ideas. I think that's interesting.
Okay. Question 9. I used to ask, what's your favorite movie? And then no one could really answer that. So I say, what's a movie that you
It's
could...
Unforgiven, but go on.
I knew there was a reason I liked it. So that's one of my favorites. So yeah, what's the movie that you can just watch over and over again? You pop it in, watch it. It's
Unforgiven, Field of Dreams, Master and Commander, 1917. I like those sort of things.
Is 1917 is the one that just came out a few years ago, the war. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I saw that in theater, and that was insane. That is a great movie, isn't it? All right, last question. Here we go.
Life Aquatic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the least gay one, but anyway. Of that guy's movies. Anderson, I think his name is.
Well, you're on the wrong podcast to talk about 80s and 90s movies. You were just on Keith's podcast. That's him over there. I grew up fundamentalist up till about 13, so there's a whole gap of where I didn't consume any culture. That could be a good
thing. That could be a bad thing, depending on how old you are.
Yeah, people go, the Goonies. I go, I've never seen that. They go, you're 43. How'd you not see the Goonies? Like, well, it was Satan. It was the devil. Yeah. You can't watch the Goonies. Facetiously. All right, last question. Favorite book outside of the Bible? What book are we going to that you could recommend? Can't be one of your own. That's a rule too. Outside of the Bible that you've either read, reread, or would recommend to someone.
Outside of the Bible. Oh, man, that's a hard one. I love Preaching and Preachers.
Yeah.
I guess this is what a lot of guys would say, but I mean, Calvin's Institute is probably shaped more than any book. Yeah. I would say that's up there. Spiritual Secret, which is Hudson Taylor's my grandson's biography of him. That's a good kind of book. Here's one that no one talks about. Intellectuals by Johnson is a good book.
I've never read it.
And then E. Michael Jones has his own version of it, which is called Modern Degenerates or Degenerate Moderns. That's a good one. It's fascinating. Talks about, like, one of my favorite parts in that book is that he goes and looks at Margaret Mead's life. So Margaret Mead, she somehow learns how to go speak this really hard foreign language, goes out to this island. Okay. On this island says, hey, all these people, they're fine with having sex with everything that walks and talks and moves, and they're not that big a deal against adultery. And they actually have capital punishment out there.
Yeah.
And while she's writing all this, she's engaged in a lesbian affair.
Wow.
And so part of the point that E. Michael Jones tries to take, and you got E. Michael Jones, you got to filter hard.
Okay.
He's an editor. But his point is that a lot of these ideological camps and schools are driven by moral corruption in the individual's life that they're seeking to justify.
Nice.
Well, it's pretty helpful.
All right, that was Fresh 10.
All right.
Michael
Yo,
Foster.
can we kick that one more time? Let's go. I'm fresh. I'm fresh. I'm fresh.
All right, and thank you guys for the gentleman that let me use that music, too. They messaged me about a year ago and said, hey, that's copyrighted. I said, I'm a Christian podcast. You're not a Christian rapper. Can I use it? And they said, yeah, that's fine. So thanks. So very last question before we let you go. Why is it good to have dangerous friends? Why are you here? You just spoke. They're going to be able to find that online. We watched it in here. It was very good. I don't want to get too much into it or give too much away because it'll be available for everyone. But why is it good to have dangerous friends?
Well, I'm here because Michael Edwards introduced me to Stephen Whitlow, and Michael Edwards has been a really good friend of mine. We played blackjack together. We dug coal together. That's our form of digging coal together. If you're a fan of Justified, we were on a card counting team back in the day.
Yeah.
And
Walter Goggins at Justified. Unbelievable, by the way.
Yeah, fantastic. He's a good voice on Invincible as well.
Yeah.
But you got to have people that like push you and challenge your thoughts.
Okay.
That's the danger of tribalism. So everyone has tribes, gang they run with.
Sure.
It's the ism, that's the problem, right? If you don't have people in your life that disagree with you,
Yeah, echo chamber
you
stuff.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
It makes you more humble, more well-rounded, more
My
thoughtful.
best friends are the ones that argue with me and debate me.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like
that's how
those
friends are.
Yeah, good
Yeah.
ones, huh?
Yep. Yeah, and teenage sons. But but yeah, that's the reason I'm here. I'm here because I know these people and love them, and
Yeah.
they help me grow in Christ.
Yeah, it wasn't too far for you either, right?
No, 3
Couple
hours.
hours?
Not too bad. Yeah.
Nice. All right, that's it, guys. Michael Foster, Dangerous Friends. We're going to continue on. We keep mashing these up. Remember, you can find out more about us at dmwpodcast.com. And remember, the chief end of man is to glorify God and enjoy him forever. God bless.
Amen.
We just do 10 fresh questions. You don't know what they are. They get to know you a little bit better and shouldn't take too long.
All right.
Guys, we're back. We're doing segments at Dangerous Friends 25. Heard our buddy Seth Gruber speak just yesterday. It was awesome. He's been on the podcast a couple months ago. Go check out that episode called It's Good to Have Dangerous Friends in preparation for this conference. But he's back. He's live. We're meeting in person. And we're going to do a little special segment with him because everyone's been asking him the exact same question. Well, not exact same, but similar questions. We know you about the pro-life movement, the abolition divide, all those things that you do and are connected with. And I just texted him, maybe someone who knows you too. You might know. Do you know Savannah Martin from the Pregnancy Center here in Toledo? Have you ever spoke there? Or?
Oh, I know the name.
Yeah, I feel like. So, and she goes, yeah, I met Seth. He's high energy, and I said that's a good term. High energy is good. But we're going to do a little Fresh 10. It's a segment we do where we get to know Seth a little bit more. You ready for it, Seth? You want to do it?
Do it, yeah.
Here we go.
Can we kick that one more time? Let's go. I'm fresh.
Oh, he's fresh, and these are fresh. We're doing it. All right, here we go. Rapid fire. 10 questions. What city and state did you grow up in, and how did that affect you?
Whittier, California.
Oh, Cali boy.
They said Whittier where the girls are prettier, but I didn't find that to be the case.
No.
So, yeah. I was homeschooled through 8th grade in
Okay.
LA, in Los Angeles County. This was before, like, the gay communists were
Took
everywhere.
over.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I went to public high school because I wanted to. It's actually Nixon's alma mater.
Wow, okay.
Whittier High School.
All right.
Nixon went to Whittier High School and Whittier College. And I did my senior project on abortion, and they told me I couldn't pick that topic because they said that runs against our guidelines for the topics you're allowed to select for your research paper.
Did you yell free speech to him?
And so I said, here's a copy of the Constitution. You're making me read in government class. I recommend you read it or you're going to have a lawsuit on your hands.
Okay, so for an early age, growing up out
was
there,
my upbringing,
yeah,
yeah.
you kind of knew how to kick against the pricks, so to speak, as Johnny Cash would say. Okay, question number 2. Do you have a go-to joke or a go-to funny story when either talking with someone in a group of people, meeting new people? Do you got a one-liner or a funny joke or something that you like to say, or maybe even a dad joke that the kids roll their eyes at?
I understand deeply the religion of transgenderism.
Okay.
Because I, too, was a man trapped in a woman's body, and then I was born.
Okay. Oh, that's pretty good. I like that. And it's kind of on subject, too, on point. Question number 3. We're in the DeLorean. The flux capacitor is fluxing. Are we going back to visit our great-great-great-great-grandfather? Or are we going forward to visit our great-great-great-great-grandchildren?
Oh, we're definitely going back.
Going back?
Yeah, I don't know
Okay.
if I want to see.
Foster said forward. That's the post-millennium.
I don't know if I want to see what America, if it's still America,
Okay.
looks like in 150
So do you have a
years.
pessimistic view of the future? Are you optimistic? What is your...
Well,
That sounds a little pessimistic. Like, I don't want to see what it's...
to be honest with you, bro, I have never cared enough about eschatology to be dogmatic about it.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying in general,
So-
outside
well,
of eschatology.
But you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And so I've never decided to die on a certain hill or to, develop a very specific eschatological vision for
Sure.
the future, because I think some of the things the pre-mills and the post-mills say, I can find in Scripture.
Hey, they're both wrong. I'm Amil, so.
There you go. There you
Yeah.
go. And so, but that sometimes does develop and
Yeah.
affect your view of the future.
Well, outside of that,
I think,
what do you think generally as a person?
I think that there will be a rebirth of Christian resistance.
It's got to be.
But I just think that it might take a while,
Oh, sure.
which is always the case.
I mean, if you look at it on a global scheme too, we've
Yeah,
got this. They're going to be up and down.
But
God-
as a history buff, as a student of history,
Yeah.
there's just too many people who have already lived that I would want to meet and
Okay.
go see.
All right.
Than wondering about who the heroes of the future
Yeah.
would be.
Yeah, you could go forward and it'd be like a iRobot scene or something, or like you're just there by yourself, Book of Eli type thing.
Yeah, I
You don't
guess
need that.
I guess I'm a little nostalgic.
Okay.
What do they say? Nostalgia is history after a few drinks. But
True. All right, question number 4. What's something people would be surprised to know about you? If you told them this fact, they go, "What? I didn't know that. What? You're a registered veterinarian? What?" Or whatever.
I used to be a pretty successful spike ball player.
Is that the one in the sand with
The round net with the ball.
Yeah, we do
I
like-
traveled around the country. I was ranked
No.
nationally.
No.
Yeah,
There's national ranking for spike ball?
My team was called Kiss My Pass,
That's funny. That's
and that
pretty
was
good.
quite good.
Really?
Yeah.
How'd you get into that?
I trained with the national champs from
No way.
Chico once or twice a week when I was living in Orange County before I got married, and I traveled around the country playing spike ball and helped develop the game when it was still developing its rules.
Yeah.
With the national champs out of Chico, and
So what makes a good spike ball player? Is it mobility? Is it knowing where the ball is going to go?
It's finesse and it's
Okay.
anticipation.
There you go.
And so basically, they say spike ball is like if foursquare and volleyball had a baby.
Yeah.
And so it's just like volleyball where it's bump, set, spike.
Sure.
So the third hit
Yep.
has to go instead of over the net.
Has to go
it
on
has
the-
to go onto the
on the
net, but you
trampoline, yeah.
don't have to use all 3 touches.
Yeah.
So when that serve comes, just like volleyball, 1,
Yeah.
then you could
Set.
go,
Or you
or
can set
1,
again.
2, and then you've got to go. But unlike volleyball, there's no sides or boundaries.
Yeah.
So the ball can be hit any direction.
Almost like ping pong.
So when you're
Where
setting,
you're-
when
yeah.
the opponent's team is setting his partner up, you're reading where the ball is being set.
Yep.
And therefore, what direction he'll likely hit it.
Yeah.
And so it's
So
quite an
spatial awareness is probably pretty big.
people kind of laugh at the game like they all do at new sports before they're mainstream.
Yeah.
That's how every sport was treated before it was mainstream.
Yeah.
It's like, what's this new stupid thing
Yeah.
called volleyball?
Yeah.
Right? Or bocce ball or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Or
Pickleball now.
Cornhole, right? But now pickleball.
Cornhole and spike ball are both on ESPN
Yeah,
too, by
yeah,
the way.
that's right. Yeah, that's right. And actually, ESPN's played spike ball tournaments before.
There you go.
So that's something people wouldn't know about.
All right. We're on the deserted island. What 3 albums are you bringing with you? And do you have 3?
What 3 albums?
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Or you could just name 3 artists. This is just a
probably-
way for me to say what's your favorite bands. That's a fancy way to...
Probably Meant to Live, Switchfoot.
Oh, Switchfoot, yeah.
One of my favorite albums, not just by them, but like period.
Yeah.
It would have to be, I mean, I got to worship. I'd have to worship too, you know what
Okay,
I'm saying?
yep.
So probably one of Tommy Walker's old albums.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
All
I'm a
right.
homeschooler, baby.
I was gonna
Okay?
say-
I'm surprised you knew who Tommy Walker was.
I was a
actually.
homeschooler too. So
Probably one of Tommy Walker's old ones.
I just was thinking you're a little too young for Tommy Walker.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm an old soul. And then I'd have to. What would be the third one?
Which, by the
Maybe
way,
something from Reliant K,
yeah,
which was like the soundtrack of my puberty.
yeah.
Um,
I'm loving your era. I can tell. I know exactly what kid you were just by that.
or maybe OC Supertones. I mean, I'd have to.
Dude,
you know,
Supertone Strike Back.
Supertone Strike Back.
Come on. Yeah, come on. I'm trying to think. I was almost going to start singing the lyrics. I remember some of it. Supertone Strike Back. Yeah, okay. All right. Number 6, properties of Monopoly. Which ones are you going after? You a slumlord guy? You going dark purple? You going boardwalk? Do you like the greens? Do you play Monopoly? If not, what's your favorite board game?
Oh, board games. Oh, man.
But if you play Monopoly, what are you going after? You're not a railroad guy, are you?
Board game nerds.
Okay.
Not as much as some, because it's hard for me to find people that are into board games. I'm
Right.
like, my wife and I are like, why don't anyone like to play board games?
Yeah.
But probably to keep it orthodox, Catan.
Yeah.
I could play Catan every night.
We got a big group in our church that rotate.
But I do get into those nerdy, like it takes 30 minutes to read the instructions books.
Yes.
War for the Ring.
Yep.
Or Hunt for the Ring. Or I have like a Harry Potter one that's super fun.
Yeah.
So I do like those.
But you don't do Monopoly at all? When you, if you ever play
I
it?
played Monopoly. It's just been ages. I played it growing up.
Well, what was your go-to? What properties are you going after?
Oh. I thought you were saying what board games.
No. Well, I was saying if you don't play Monopoly. But if you play Monopoly, everyone's
so-
got their preference.
it's
My
been-
wife's a railroad person,
It's
and
been
it
so
drives
long-
me
It's
insane.
been so long.
You know, the
been so long
Reds
since I
and
played Monopoly.
Okay. All right, we'll let you out of this one.
Yeah, I can't remember the
You're
properties.
Catan.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Catan.
just not heady enough for you, Monopoly, huh? What do people misunderstand about you the most? What's something where they go, I thought he was this, and you go, no, I'm not that. Or if you're being self-reflective, what would they misunderstand about you? I get kind of like jerk a lot. He's a jerk, and then they meet me and they go, actually, he's pretty nice. He just says things that people don't want to hear.
I mean, yeah, I get that one a lot.
I would.
Yeah,
I think we could come together on
Seth's
that. Yeah.
a jerk. He's mean. He's not very.
You're not caring.
He's not
You
very
get that a lot.
Charitable.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you're like,
It's
I'm being very charitable.
Yeah, it's like, why? Because
telling the truth.
I told you to use your leftover purpose-driven life books for toilet paper when you run out. Like, what? What's wrong with that?
Yeah.
The other one would probably be that I don't want to abolish abortion because
Right.
there's all these immediatists.
Yeah.
They call themselves abolitionists.
Yeah.
But I call them immediatists.
Okay.
Because you don't get to co-opt the term abolitionism.
Yeah.
Like Wilberforce. You know, Wilberforce was an abolitionist.
Yeah.
But he took incremental victories.
Yeah.
Towards the
Which-
total abolitioning.
Which a good point is a lot of abolitionists during the slave era still owned slaves, but they were abolitionists. Got rid of their slaves, didn't necessarily go right to D.C. and say we have to do something immediately. They understood that it took time. My point is a lot of your slavery abolitionists were also incrementalists as well, which is kind of weird.
Right.
And I was all the way over on the pro-life, didn't even know what abolition was, then got introduced to it, went, okay, and then kind of got turned off by a lot of those guys by going, yeah, but I'm also in politics. I'm a county commissioner. I'm a legislative liaison. I've ran Senate campaigns. There has to be, you have to be purposeful about things, and you can't alienate.
Yeah.
You don't have to break your principles.
Right.
That's what they think they're doing, I think. I don't want this to be a bash session on
And
some of the abolitionists.
That's what hundreds of these abolitionists say about me online.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Okay, and that's not true.
dude, I just bashed 5 pro-life organizations for coming out against an abolition
You're
bill.
an equal opportunity criticizer.
Like,
That's why I like you.
You know, so.
All right, question number 8. Cup of coffee with any historical figure outside of the Bible. Who are you sitting down with? You've got a half hour.
Oh
You
my
got Squirrely Joe's
gosh,
Coffee,
dude.
sponsor of the conference. Shout out.
Chesterton.
Well, who's that?
Chesterton.
Chesterton. You kind of have that Chesterton,
He's
figuratively
incredible.
speaking.
Oh my gosh. That's the highest compliment.
I mean,
I've
at the
ever
beginning
been.
last night, I said, look at this guy. He's got his Tucker Carlson down.
Chesterton is, I mean, dude. I
I
mean,
would
he was a huge impact on Lewis
Yeah.
and Tolkien
Yeah.
because he was a little older than
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
But I mean, dude, do you know that Chesterton is the most quoted human being on the internet after Shakespeare?
I would believe that.
So that guy was writing in tweet length characters before that was a thing.
Yeah.
No one could pack so much in so few words.
Well, I mean, a good quote is a sign of intelligence. You're
That's right.
taking a huge idea, breaking it down into 1 or 2 sentences,
Yep.
and conveying it and communicating it well. I love good quotes. And Chesterton, yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. Doug Wilson, a friend of mine, big Chesterton guy. He's quoting him every other.
Pastor Doug Wilson?
Yeah.
Yeah. I love Doug. Yeah.
All right, here we go. 2 more, and then we're done. What's a movie you can watch over and over again? You can just
Lord
put
of
it
the
in
Rings.
You got a particular favorite of those three?
version.
Extended director's cut?
They're supposed to go together. That's how Tolkien wrote them.
So you just watch it. It's all one movie. All right. Number 10, what's a book you'd recommend outside of the Bible? Something that everyone should read, at least open up. Can't be one of your own.
Orthodoxy by Chesterton.
That's a good book, actually. My wife just bought that for me a few years
Or
ago.
Mere Christianity by Lewis.
Mere Christianity's good. I read that in my 20s, and then I had to reread it.
Or The
again.
Abolition of Man by Lewis.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, that was it. Fresh 10. Seth Gruber.
Can we kick that one more time? Let's go. I'm fresh. I'm fresh.
VIP lunch right next door.
I'm fresh.
Oh, we're not invited. We're not invited to the VIP. All right, guys, thanks. Yeah, he's out of here. Seth's out of here. Go eat lunch. We're going to go eat lunch. We're going to come back more. Remember, guys, go find us at dmwpodcast.com. Support the show. And remember, Chief End Man, glorify God. Enjoy him forever. God bless. Be sure to check us out at dmwpodcast.com, where you can purchase the best and snarkiest merch on the internet, support the show, and leave us a review or message. Dead Men Walking can be found on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Dead Men Walking Podcast, and on Twitter X at Real DMW Podcast. The Dead Men Walking Podcast is part of the Fight Laugh Feast Network. For exclusive show content, be sure to download the PubTV app and become a member. If you're a business that needs to reach hundreds of thousands of potential customers in your demographic, podcast advertising might be for you. Send all inquiries to deadmenwalkingpodcast@gmail.com.
None your biscuit.